Hey guys, welcome to Life and Drawing podcast number 14. And on today's podcast, I want to talk about what's insanity. What's insanity? And, let me hit the timer. There we go. And I want to start with what is commonly used as the definition of insanity. I'm sure you've heard the expression that goes somewhat like this. Well, you know what the definition of insanity is, right? It's doing the same thing over and over again while expecting a different outcome. And that's used a lot. And I don't know if I don't know if it's because it it sounds cool. Man, I have a dry voice. Let me drink some water real quick. But when you when you uh, when you really think about it, that's really more stupidity. You know, and it's not about being mean. It's just if you're constantly doing the same thing over and over again, and you're expecting a different outcome, then it's clear that you don't have the mental capacity to discern that you're no, see, I'm saying mental capacity. No, now that's getting into the realm of insanity. But if you're constantly doing the same thing and it's not producing the outcome that you want, then that's foolishness. That's stupidity. And granted, stupidity can be somewhat of a synonym um, in the realm of insanity, but you know, really the real definition of insanity is someone with a severe mental deficiency, and of course all the symptoms that entails. And um, so I guess I don't know if it just sounds cool to say, the definition of insanity. You know what they say. It's repeating the same action or doing the same thing, expecting a different outcome. And if you haven't heard it, just keep an ear out for it. I'm sure you'll come to that point, and and you'll hear it, and in the moment it just sounds right, but as you really think about it, I believe you will see that it's truly not accurate. And and why the topic, what's insanity, and all depends on what time I post this. But there have been several occurrences in the past couple of weeks where, there's been a mass shooting. Um, there was an attack on the Capitol, a guy with his vehicle, and again, it all depends on when I post this, when I post this podcast. But at this current time, which is April 3rd, one of the officers that were struck by the car died, and the other one is in serious condition. And so, and one of the mass shootings took place in, I believe it was Boulder, Colorado, and uh, uh, um, and so yeah, and in both cases, uh, both uh, suspects were deemed to be insane, and that can be very well the case. These individuals suffering from severe mental deficiency, and so they you know they they do an action, commit an action, and it can only be described as an act of insanity. And so, first point in this podcast is, what is the correct definition of insanity? And, second point in this podcast is, how do we go about recognizing and what course of action do we take, and in addressing this issue with those who are suffering with this case of insanity. What do we do? I mean, particularly when you think of families who are affected, what's the cause of action? You think legally too as well. What, how are these folks going to be held accountable for their behavior, and will they be held accountable? And sometimes they're not. And it goes back to the definition of, hey, their mental capacity and the state of mind, and and in a lot of cases, it's a very real thing. Some folks just are completely just gone in the sense of being in touch with reality. I believe when you know, we are aware of these individuals, there needs to be a real sense of awareness and action being taken to ensure that folks like that, uh, do not have access to firearms and or are monitored in some kind of way, some type of capacity, so to hopefully lessen the occurrences of these violences that are taking place. And so, because I mean, I'm a firm believer in the Second Amendment, and I definitely don't want my ability to own a firearm be taken. Uh, you know, I definitely would not want that to happen, and so so something needs to be done proactively, and addressing the issues at hand. And so, someone's awake. I hear the microwave. So yeah, I mean, what do we do with folks who we know have mental deficiencies and and may have displayed actions of violence? Um, I don't know. I mean, there have been cases where there have been reports of someone who've has had a questionable or history of violence, but nothing was done because what they did didn't warrant them being arrested um, or or institutionalized, and unfortunately, it took them murdering a person or multiple people, or and I think at that point it's just, I mean, it's too late, and so uh, so something more proactive has to has to take place, and so otherwise we'll constantly be in this situation where we're dealing with folks who are committing these truly these atrocities of just taking the lives of innocent folks, and 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 many times not really having to face the consequences of their actions. Because I believe, I mean, you're mentally impaired. Uh, there still needs to be some form of accountability that needs to happen, because otherwise, um, it just becomes an a scapegoat to just say, hey, I was just mentally insane. I didn't know what I was doing, and so yeah, I'm not gonna face the full the full length. What's the phrase called? The full weight of the law. And so when we know what the real definition of insanity is, and we're able to recognize uh, it in someone, we need to take a course of action to monitor uh, those people and um, and take some form of action. Um, uh, and I don't know. I mean, it's probably not going to be a perfect scenario as far as what you do and how do you do it in privacy and but I think once there have been reports of violence, um, I think the whole privacy has to go out the window. You know, because not everyone that has a mental issue uh, needs their should have their privacy affected. But I think if you have displayed a history of violence, and there have been reports, um, then you should be monitored. I think that's only fair. Uh, um, yeah. Sorry, kind of lost my thought there for a moment. Uh, um, and then lastly, what do you do with uh, the perpetrators who commit these crimes and and the only explanation that's given is that they have to be insane? Does that lessen the weight of the law that they should receive? Is it like, well, they can't get the death penalty or they can't get life in prison because, hey, they're insane? um, because how do you quantify that for the victims, the victims' family members, and loved ones? Um, uh, I believe they should be held accountable, and um, and the the full weight of the law should apply. Now would I feel a certain kind of way if I knew of a family member that has an illness and, and unfortunately they committed a crime and and they have to face the full judgment of the law? Yeah, yeah, I'll be, I'll feel a certain kind of way. Um, but it's it's the law, and I think the more we compromise the law and create exceptions, I think the more loopholes we'll create and afford uh, perpetrators of violence to uh, to claim that, hey, I was insane, and um, and we want to be careful of not falling into that trap. And and hopefully still maintaining a a uh, a full, you know, what's the word I'm looking for? Maintaining a full measure of the law and its consequences. I think hopefully that will deter folks from, hey, you know what, I'm going to do this, and and you know, if I get caught, you know, I'll probably be um, I'll probably be deemed as insane, and so I may get off, you know. And so, and like I said, every case is different. There's some folks who are just, yeah, they're insane. I mean, there's no and ifs or buts about it. They are insane, and yeah, you really can't determine what their intentions were, because they're insane. And so, like I said, I mean, each case most likely has to be dealt with differently. But ultimately, I just think the end goal has to be the same. Folks still need to be held accountable, and so, because if we're not, then we will have the recurrence of these behaviors, and it may come across as the old saying of insanity, us doing the same thing over and over again, or us experiencing the same thing over and over again, and not changing or adjusting the course of action. That's not insanity. That's stupidity. Insanity is a severe mental deficiency that affects one's judgment. And that's what needs to be addressed. And a consistent course of action needs to be in place, so we're not repeating the same outcome while we're hoping for something different. I don't know if that made sense or not, but I'm gonna cut it right there. Thanks for listening in, and to Life and Drawing, podcast number 14. Be sure to follow. You can follow me on Facebook.com at facebook.com/Michelot Comics. Be sure to like and subscribe to youtube.com/Michelot Lully. And you can support this channel by going to patreon.com/Michelot Lully. I think my little man is awake. And on that note, be safe, guys. And until next time, peace.